right, hello and welcome. How is everyone doing on what I hope is a fantastic Monday, January the 13th? We are so in the new year. It's good. It's a good start. How you doing, Jeff?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
How's Matthew for Monday, January 13th?
I'm gonna make my microphone go staticky on you probably.
Uh-oh.
Did it did
Well,
it go
you,
static?
you, you no?
I did gently enough. Usually I touch this at all and it just like sort of noise and can't
Right.
hear
I know. I've heard
Professor.
that before.
I don't believe you, Josh. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Anna. I'm glad there's someone somewhat honest on these streams.
I love you, Anna.
But no, it's going well. Having a good start to the week. I started a new place, and the first client they gave me is one of those really hard clients, and I honestly don't
Hard
mind.
as in difficult?
Yeah, like the work
Okay.
isn't hard. There's a lot of it, and it's going to take a long time to get it done, and I don't mind that. Uh, but the client is being intentionally difficult just to be difficult, and I don't mind that. I was actually telling them I a hard client doesn't bother me. Like I don't know what's going on in that person's life. I don't know if they're having a bad day. I don't know if they have like no control at home, and so this is like the one area where they get to exert control, and so they're just trying to grab control wherever they can. Uh, so that doesn't bother me. And what bothers me is when I don't have a company that I'm working for that, or like when the company I'm working for is difficult. And so um, there's a job like this job I have, the company I'm working for, great. The last job I had where I was working with my friend, he always had my back. It was a great place to work at. Uh, Working for myself, that guy was a bit of a jerk. He he had problems remembering names. He didn't always pay me on time. That guy was the worst.
Problem remembering names.
Yeah, he was a really weird
Hmm.
guy. Um, but before that, I had a company where they did not have my back, and it was horrendous. And I had one
That's never
job
good.
with one of the first companies I worked for in this line of work where uh, the manager, I wasn't the person he wanted, and so he made my life miserable. And then he forced me to use the person he did want, but he wouldn't let. They reported time really weird, and so it made me the one who was responsible for everything but wasn't in control of anything. And I was very young at the time, and I realized that is the worst position to be in. And anytime I ever find myself in that position in the future, I was just going to walk off the job and never ever be in that situation again.
Can't blame you.
But no, this place is great. And so the start of this week, they're like, "Oh, we're just going to stop everything. Like everyone go on break for a week." And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Solid way to start the week. But fortunately, they're like, okay, if you're not working for this guy, here's 15 other things we need you to do. I'm like, awesome. Keep me busy. That's what I want. And
Um,
yes, Texas,
Texas.
I didn't pay myself on time. That's the joy of being an independent contractor. The work,
Hmm.
sometimes I have to hound myself to put in those timesheets. I was also a horrible employee back then.
Anna says that you must have forgotten to put your name on the checks to pay yourself.
Yeah, stuff like that. Uh, and no, Thomas, I am not off all this week, thankfully. No, no, I actually, like, as soon as I showed up, they're like, Matt, you're the one who's the expert in this brand of PLCs. Like, how have you ever seen this message? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a networking problem. And so for uh, the next like 5 hours, we're troubleshooting stuff, and it was a networking problem, 100%. Like as soon as they swapped out or bypassed a random switch that was going bad, everything was fine. But it was fun. And hey, GamerGrad81, how you doing, man? I'm going to assume that you're someone who enjoys games and you graduated in 81, maybe?
It may be possible. Distinct
Maybe.
possibility.
I'm not always the best at picking up subtle clues, but sometimes I think I get them close. Oh, born in 81.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, missed it by that much.
Yeah, I graduated in 81. He'd be in bed already. Hey now. Let's not get too personal with these comments. Uh, I'm rapidly approaching the age where I'm like, man, 9 o'clock. It's kind of late.
Nah.
And then I'm actually meeting up with a
I'm
buddy
older
of
than you
mine
are.
for breakfast at 5:30 tomorrow. I'm like, this is a weird place to be in. This side of life, the early morning life.
I'd rather be up late than up early.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's me too. Unfortunately, I've changed my entire life to be the exact opposite of that. It's working. It really is working, and I'm glad I've made these changes. Yeah, squeezed into the Atari 2600 generation. There we go. So speaking of,
I remember my 2600 fondly.
Speaking of Kiefer, I made some predictions about him this week.
Did you?
Those? Yeah.
You said this would be a Jakar episode.
Yeah.
He has proven to be a religious person, and Jakar is doing the lamenting in this episode. We have seen his pain. A friend of Jakar of the Narn government comes and makes a confession that the war is going horribly, and Jakar has great lamentations over it. The Narn at the point of needing to surrender to the Centauri, and Jakar needs to figure out how to keep the Narn from being enslaved. And Kefir saves the day. So
Kefir saves the day. That's going to be in my guesses for the rest of this season. Eventually, Kefir's going to save the day. I know it. Why else would they have him in the credits for this season when we've only seen him like 3 times? It doesn't make sense. He's gonna save the day eventually.
Josh wants to know if I'm going to let you change your prediction this week. I don't know. You think I should do that, Josh?
No.
I mean, I already gave him a chance one time prior, and that was under some circumstances. You know?
Yeah.
He had trouble with the stream the prior week, and he just briefly got a prediction in the chat before we left.
And my prediction was based on my complete getting the name wrong.
You did.
Oh, hold on. I forgot to give myself leader. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, so once I remembered
yourself leader.
Yeah, so in a side tube, if I don't give myself the ability to be the leader, I have no control over the video.
Okay.
And so I forgot to cue it up. So I was queuing it up, and all of a sudden it starts blaring in my ears playing. And I'm like, whoops, let's fix that real quick. I'm on top of it, man, you know?
I see it. Thomas's Z button is malfunctioning again.
And yeah, GamerGrad, I'm right there with you. I was 84. And I didn't get an Atari. We weren't that cutting edge, but we did buy a Nintendo and an NES in, I want to say 88 or 87. My brothers and I, we saved our money and we got that.
Very cool.
And then we lost it privileges right away. Like we fought over it. My parents were like, "No, you've all lost your privileges." we got them back, but like it was the beginning of a long line of getting in trouble and losing privileges over it.
I got an Atari 2600 in 1981.
And hey, Shy, yeah, no audio. That prank has already been pulled for this stream. Nice try. You know, I had a friend who he had a 2600. He lived just down the street, and I was really jealous of that. It it was silly because I was jealous of his 2600 in a day and age when Sega and the SNES were the predominant gaming stations. I'm like, no, that Atari is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Oh, that's sad,
Thomas's
Thomas.
2600 got ruined. Wow. Why did it get ruined, Thomas? What happened? They have the 2600 Plus out right now, as well as the 7800 Plus, which will play all 2600 games.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So if you're into retro gaming,
I am. I like retro gaming a lot. And it's sad because retro gaming now includes the PlayStation 3.
that's
PlayStation
true.
3 is 19 years old this year. 19. I'm not ready for this. I feel like I have a son who's going off to college. I'm not ready for this. But no, it's but no, like whenever I think retro gaming, I use it's a custom board called the Mr. FPGA. And it plays Atari games and NES games, SNES games, N64 games even now, Dreamcast games. There's a lot of work you have to do. Yeah, that's it, Omni, the Mister. Excellent thing. I've spent a lot of time getting it set up. But it's how I do all my retro stuff. But I mean, over there, I actually have a device that lets me make my own backups of my cartridge collection. So
Very nice.
I'm not a full-on pirate here.
Full-on pirate? You're just a part-time pirate?
Yeah, piracy is an interesting thing. It all depends on how you look at them. The British pirates, they were the scourge of the French, but they were idolized in Britain as freedom fighters. So, I mean, who defines piracy? Congress does, to be technical.
Well, yeah, you have a point.
I know, gamer. It's weird. Do I use the snack adapters or USB controller? So I've made my own snack adapters, but I also use some Bluetooth ones, and I'm trying to, like, I enjoy being able to hook in a literal physical controller, but then I have the age-old problem of having 10-foot long cables draped across my floor.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a problem. I'm sorry that your 2600 had water damage, Thomas.
Oh, that's rough.
But he's looking
Yeah.
forward to something that's coming out that's doing Nintendo 64 games.
Oh, yeah?
That's what Thomas says. First I've heard of it.
What's that?
I
Is it
don't
the
know.
Mister? Because the
Thomas,
Mister does it.
maybe you can enlighten us, Thomas.
Yeah, I liked how Josh put it. I'm not a pirate. I'm a privateer. Oh, the analog systems. Yeah, they do a lot of retro stuff. And their stuff is interesting because it has like a 90% compatibility rate, it seems like. But for whatever reason, like especially with their NES one, there's just random ones where it doesn't work. I don't get it. Yeah, their FPGA hardware emulation. So it's the same as the Mister, just they've done more work such that it does all the accessories and does the breakout so you can plug in your cartridge and stuff.
Nice.
Now, Omni, them's fighting words. I would not say the analog system is better than the Mister, but I forgive you. For peace in our time, I forgive you. No, you need to go join the Mr. FPGA Discord server. We will help you get it smoother on the Mister. I guarantee it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started here. I don't mean to get into the weeds here, but I do every time, and I don't know if Nintendo is trying to kill analog. They've tried a lot of times to kill different things, but as long as they are not physically copying hardware keys off of Nintendo, as long as they work in they call it a black box environment where you never actually see the original hardware, you're just recreating intended results. it's legal. Now there's a an emulator that did this for the Switch or Wii, the Switch, and they got busted because they made a boo boo. Someone had copied a a software key. Like you literally had to have this key in order to run any game. And they just copied it straight in. And you're not allowed to do that. Like they would have had to reverse engineer some sort of process to bypass that, and then it would have been legal. But because they copied that code straight from Nintendo, they got shut down. And I'm glad they got shut down. As much as I like my emulators, you gotta do it the right way. And Matthew is fully wrong in his prediction. I believe it. So
we shall see.
Let's go ahead and do this button. Woo, getting fancy. If I keep saying emulator Rock Solid is going to come at and yell at me. Rock Solid is a big supporter of emulation. He does it all the time. It's just he does the official emulation released by Nintendo, but it's still emulation. So you can't knock what you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and start this episode. You guys know the drill. If you want to, come join us in the link to the SciTube that I have pinned above, and that will take you to the screening room that is active only during this stream. And all it does is it syncs up our watch time so that ideally you're seeing what I'm seeing plus or minus a couple seconds. If you're here in the future, sorry, that link is not going to work. It is only for this stream right now. If you come in the future, you need your own copy. You can, if you have Amazon Prime memberships, you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. If you don't have Amazon Prime membership, you can watch it on Tubi TV and now Hulu, I do believe.
Roku channel.
Roku, excuse me, the Roku channel. If you don't want to sign up for any of those, you're so sick of, I just have 20 different online services. I hate them all. I want to cut them down. I understand. In which case, go buy the physical media. You cannot beat the Blu-rays. Amazon typically has it on sale in the $80 range. Sometimes you can find a better price.
$77.99 right now.
99. Great price. And, I wish I was sponsored by them. I'm not. I just honestly believe you can't beat physical media.
I agree.
And if that's just not an option for any of those options aren't going to fly, once every 7 seconds, you're going to have a clip right here. It will not include any audio as long as I've set up my computer right. Which it's always it's always a bit of a roulette wheel spin on that one. But the idea is no audio, just a still image so that you have a reference. So you see, oh, hey, someone's being shot right now. Jakar, he has a Pope hat on. I don't know. Kiefer's saving the day. Absolutely going to happen.
What?
You got a reference for it. Yeah.
What?
Kiefer saves the day. Just wait. You guys will see it, I am sure. So with all that, if you're here in the future and you want to sync up your watch times, I'm going to give you a quick 3 countdown, and then we can all hit the play button together. So 3, 2, 1, hit that play button, everyone. And I'm going to just jibber jabber for a second. Yes, it looks like I am not picking up any audio from the stream, so we should be good. Or
Yay.
From the video. Okay, so what's Ivanova saying isn't responding? A ship?
Yes, a Marqueb ship. Was due in 10 hours ago.
Now the Marqueb race is the race from just last week, isn't it?
Yes, we did see one last week. We've seen them before. Before that.
Okay. They have a very generic look to me, like the patterning they put on their skin. These are the Marquebs, right?
Yes.
I guess I was thinking they looked a little bit like the Narn, just in general skin tone, but that's wrong. That's just wrong.
Now we've seen this actor before. That's Jim Norton. He played the judge on Babylon 5,
Okay.
and he was also Albert Einstein on Next Generation in The Nth Degree and in
Oh.
Descent.
Now I really did enjoy when we saw him as the judge, and one of the plaint or defendants was one of the gray aliens.
Yes.
And so Franklin is saying, he's here as a formality. All deaths on the station have to be investigated. Uh, and as he's talking to the surviving Markeb, uh, he's he's mentioning that something's not adding up, and the guy's like, "Well, you're not suggesting foul play, are you?" Which immediately makes me think there's foul play.
Hmm. Now, I don't know if you caught it. Keffer's name was mentioned
Oh,
when Ivanova was talking to Sheridan, and he's out on his own little excursions after the end of his patrol.
okay.
And
So
Sheridan didn't like it. He was looking for a ship he saw in hyperspace. The same ship way back when that ship got lost in hyperspace earlier in the season.
okay.
He's looking for that ship again.
Oh, okay.
Sheridan had a funny look on his face.
And I could see that Kiefer's going out on patrol afterwards on his own, doing his own thing. I could see that tying into Franklin's Underground Railroad work he had been doing. Now, they did say they had to stop that because after Bester showed up last time, the it was too dangerous to keep using Babylon 5, I want to say. And Melphis Sky is saying that Yuzu, that's the name of the Switch emulator. They got busted because they were giving download links for Tears of the Kingdom to their Patreon supporters. Oh, that was dumb of them. I, that's why they were going after them. But the thing that let them take it down completely was they found that code, just copy and paste it in.
Hey, it's Keffer.
He's gonna save the day. Just watch, everyone. Okay, so Kefir's been making excursions into hyperspace. But one of the things we've talked about is that it's incredibly dangerous to just randomly go off in hyperspace, isn't it?
Well, I think he's staying on the beacon. He's just looking for that ship.
Okay.
See if he can find it.
And Lanier spent 2 days preparing this meal for them. The food has to be sanctified during each of the 15 days of cooking. And each spice can only be used once. He's going into great detail about this. And I like this little detail uh, because obviously we've talked about how the Mbari are strongly influenced by Japanese culture or how we perceive Japanese culture here in the West. And one of the interesting things they do is tea ceremonies, and it's just extremely ornate the steps they go through. And I like how they're kind of amping that up to 100 here. And he was going to eat, and they're like, whoa, 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 no. It's like there's other rituals that must be observed, and if you don't follow them, Lanier has to start over again from the beginning.
Or Lanier.
And Lanier is very relieved looking that they are observing protocol. Now he
Get
keeps
the
trying to take a bite. He needs to read the room and just wait to be instructed.
and we hear Valen's name again.
Okay, Valen was the prophet guy.
Very historical figure in Minbari culture. Founded the Grey Council.
So he's finally been cleared to eat, and he starts to try, but they go with the right hand. So I think it's technically canon that he's left-handed. Now they must wait.
Poor Sheridan.
That's an ordeal. Come on, Sheridan, show willing. There you go. I mean, at least their chairs kind of have some backs to them. Like it's on the floor, but at least like they got some lumbar support. It looked like.
Yeah. Hey, it's Kefir again.
I didn't recognize him with his helmet. Let's see, Omni. A while back, you were mentioning that you wanted to try the Saturn console on Mister Next. It works well. I got a couple Saturn games that I backed up, and it runs fine. Are you on Discord on me? If you're not, come join the Discord server, and I get you connected up to the Mister Forums or Mister Server.
He's on the server.
Yeah, I'll send you a link and an invite to it. They're extremely helpful. A little wacky, but they find the ship and everyone aboard it is dead apparently.
Yep.
And I like how I like how in shows like this you'll often see the doctors wanting to wear a mask, but at the same time you want to see the actor's face behind it, and so they'll have like a silken face mask as if that's doing anything. I actually had a friend during the lockdowns who she made a mask that was silken, fully knowing it wouldn't stop anything, but just to get people to leave her alone and stop complaining. Like you need to put something on your face, and she's like, okay, fine, here, and it's a silken mask, and then like, okay, thank you, we appreciate this, and she's like, what? Sheridan has fallen asleep. He was in deep meditation. Excuse me.
Indeed.
I do like how, as he wakes up, he goes, "In memory of the 9 and the 1." And Texas is saying that either refers to Valen and the Great Council or baseball team and their coach. And so he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go." And she goes, "No, it's okay. The meal was finished, or the ceremony of the meal was finished just moments before he started meditating."
Meditating. Yes. He says he's still hungry. That's probably true.
And
I
then
want
they
to know
say
what they
something.
said.
Yeah.
I want to know what they said.
And that's such an interesting thing for them to do. So, as Sheridan left and the door closes, they had Lanier and Dolores say something to each other in Bari, and Franklin's upset about something.
Yes, he is.
Ooh. Hey, so Franklin's worked up because this dignitary from the Macabre, Macbar, Mar-
Marcab.
Macab,
Marcab.
Marcab. There we go.
Marcab.
The the Marcab. He wanted the ship released to him immediately. He didn't want them to board it, and yeah, and Franklin's like, yeah, you don't want me to board it because you suspect the same thing I do. I've had 3 dead Marcabs in the past couple days, and he suspects a plague. And yep, the Marcab liaison ambassador guy, he confirms that it's a plague and it's 100% lethal. And apparently it's been around for a while. It seems he says it's not something that they talk about. And this disease only appeared once before, centuries ago. And they think that when it showed up, it was a punishment from their gods for lack of morality. Dr. Lazarus, huh? Someone who raised was risen from the dead?
It's actually Lazarin.
Lazarin. Hmm. I think we all know what I'm sticking with.
Probably.
And so apparently the first death of this plague happened a year ago, but the family was so scandalized that they lied about it, or so embarrassed because of the potential scandal they lied about it. Which, I mean, if you think a disease is literally a punishment from your god, yeah, that's something to be embarrassed about. But it's really interesting just how many, like there's a plot like this back in Sequest, I want to say, and now we see it here where a pandemic is initially kept secret, uh, and is, you know, tearing through a community. It's just interesting how we see real life parallels, uh, our science fantasy. And Dr. Lazarus is frustrated because the people, they don't even want to talk about it because they feel like the subject makes them dirty. And so the plague has been kept under wraps, and since it's kept under wraps, it's spreading even faster than if people talked about it. Hey Gorilla, how you doing? You got a flat
Oh,
there, buddy? Says he's trying to cuss out a tire.
oh my. Sorry, Gorilla.
And I'm sure this little child unit will be perfectly fine. Nothing bad about to happen to it. So the papa's dead. The little girl was trying to find her dad for food. They don't have dinner on alien planets. They just have food times. What was Matthew's wrong prediction? Gorilla, I am insulted that you think my prediction was wrong.
It was wrong.
That's inconsequential. The important thing, he's assumed it was wrong. So my wrong prediction was that this would be a Jakar-centric episode in which he, as a religious person, would be dealing with lamentations and confessions of his race losing a war, blah, 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 blah. Not important. The correct prediction is that a plague is ripping through an alien civilization, and it has now come aboard Babylon 5. And it's not just any plague, it's a plague with extreme religious connotations. And Garibaldi, yeah, he's pointing out that if they bring in every Markeb, then they're going to scream bloody murder because they're going to assume that you're accusing them of gross immorality. Texas, my prediction was correct, just not for this episode. Yeah, the plot is Kiefer can't pursue emulators anymore and has to work around it.
Or is his prediction correct, Texas?
Maybe, it's true.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
We're only what? Almost 20 minutes into the episode? That's only half over. So one of the main issues going on here with the Markeb is that this disease is not just a taboo, it's a silent killer. It remains completely dormant until it's basically too late. And so at this point in time, we're not even sure if it's a cross-species disease or if it's only the Markeb who can catch it. And so one of the issues Franklin is bringing up is that if this disease is only capable of being transmitted to other Markeb, then by forcing all the Markeb to be in one spot, the only thing you're doing is increasing the infection rate. But if it can be sent to other species, then they need to be quarantined for the safety of the other species.
However, the air is recycled throughout the station.
True. Yeah, why are you having deja vu? Yeah, I don't know. They just need to keep 6 feet away from each other and put up plastic dividers so that when you're talking to someone, the air can't go around it and infect them. Trust the science, everyone.
We had those guidelines at the library I work at, but we were still handling the books that they were bringing us, and
yeah.
So Gorilla says, "Don't forget the masks."
I remember the extreme paranoia of it being a disease that could be transmitted on surfaces, and just having the Lysol wipes and wiping down like boxes that came from the store. And yeah, this Markeb is literally saying the very thing that Garibaldi was saying, that they are accusing the Markeb on the station of being unclean and immoral. And he's saying, yeah, hey, maybe the truth of the matter is that it's your morality that is infected us. Is that Dr. Lazarus right there? Or is that just another Markeb?
No, that's another Markeb.
Okay.
He's the ambassador.
And so the ambassador is saying that he is insisting that he lets them leave the station. And Sheridan's warning him, we can't do that. If you leave the station, all you're going to do is spread the disease that much faster. And he says, Franklin's saying, you need to come down here as quick as you can. Unfortunately, I got bad news. Not only does it seem like the disease is airborne, but now I got a dead Pakmara. And so the ambassador is saying, just, uh, we are the pure, have faith, we'll be fine. Texas, they were healthy, or Thomas is saying they were healthy before you canceled the pub. False. This is an old show. They were unhealthy before I ever started the pub.
Yeah, I think you're about 27 years too late there, Thomas.
And so Franklin needs his team to go into the isolation chamber, but they're unwilling to. They're scared of catching the disease now.
You can't blame them.
And so Franklin's willing to risk his own life, but Dr. Lazarus steps up and he says, I have the most experience with this disease. I'll go into the isolation chamber. And yeah, Texas, my faith in science has taken a lot of hits as of late, too. I'm at the point where I'm like, maybe I should take up smoking. Maybe the general surgeon's wrong about that one. I'm joking.
Surgeon General?
Surgeon General? Yeah. On every
General
package.
Surgeon.
Which way did I say?
General Surgeon is what she said.
Yeah, he's a general. And the armed forces thing. Thank you, Gorilla. He's going to smoke them for me. I appreciate that. So Dolores is coming in sorry about something, and I can't help but wonder if she's about to say, like, this is a bioengineered.
This is a fast moving episode.
Okay, so no, Dolores is just saying that she wants to be allowed in the quarantine zone, and she wants to go and be compassionate to them. And Sheridan saying, "What? They're not your own people." And she has a great comeback. She goes, "I didn't realize that similarity was required for compassion." And I think that is a great message even for today. Similarity is not required for compassion.
I agree.
Gorillas, do I want you to smoke the strawberry cigars, the blue raspberry, the honey banana, white Russian, or good old menthol? Well, you know what? It was good old menthol that I grew up with every time I went to go visit extended family. And did Sheridan just make a bit of a Freudian slip confession there?
What slip is that?
It seemed like he may have just confessed maybe more feelings and general friendship.
Maybe they both are.
I didn't catch what he yelled in that last sentence, but the way he stopped and looked away, it seemed as if the words he said carried a lot more weight to them than he meant for them to say. Yeah. He says,
Mm.
when I do see you again, call me John." And she gives a little smile and bites her lip. And Garibaldi comes in quite hot, arms are swinging. Nice moment.
Garibaldi had a bit of a doubt there for a second
He did, and
before
they
he
framed
yeah,
that
he did.
scene very well.
They did.
So the McCabe, he's on the ground. He's been beat up. They're hitting him like, "Why do you bring this disease here?" So Garibaldi saves him. You know, very standard Garibaldi thing to do. And then you see the wounded Marqueb, trying to inch his way a little bit. He reaches up to Garibaldi, and you see Garibaldi have this moment of hesitation where
Yep.
he's like, "Do I actually grab this guy's hand?" Now I'm trying to think 93, 94 time range. Could this episode be a bit of a metaphor for another issue of the time
I I think so.
that had the hmm, I mean, maybe. So I know in the mid 90s, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being enacted under Clinton. But the scare was more in the 80s, wasn't it?
It was, but this isn't too far past the 80s.
It was interesting because the science czar from the most recent pandemic was also leading the charge during that scare, and he
Yep.
was telling everyone that if you could catch AIDS by touching a cereal box that someone with AIDS had touched. Like he was really drumming up the fear and paranoia. And I remember people with signs, "You're killing us, Fauci."
Um, Franklin's talking about the Black Plague right now.
And Lazarus, he seems to be showing signs of sickness now, going straight for his central nervous system. And Texas is saying it could be an analogy, but it wouldn't be a perfect analogy. It's true. I mean, no analogy is ever perfect,
No.
but I do remember very much that. I mean, just there were concerns where it wasn't at my church, but I do know there was a church where someone with HIV had come to Christ, went to be baptized, and they had to baptize him last because no one wanted to go into the baptismal after he had been in there because they were scared that they could catch it through the water. So I mean the level of misinformation and superstition that was surrounding how this was spread was phenomenal.
Josh says that in 94, AIDS was becoming a big death in Americans aged 25 to 54.
Was it really? I thought it was sooner than that.
I thought it was as well.
So Dolores, she finds the little child from earlier, and uh, she's like, "Oh no, she can't find her mom." And Lanier, try to find this child's mother. And Lanier goes, "Okay," and looks around, and goes, "How?" And so they ask the child, "Well, what's your mother's name?" She goes, "Mama." Like, okay, let's try.
Faith manages.
Yeah, that's why your kids should
Um,
always know your actual names.
Thomas, you sure you want to say that?
He's talking about the Marqueb.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, Kay Roberts was saying that polio was handled more similarly to what we're seeing right here, and then tuberculosis, yellow fever. I mean, every time there's a new disease that is deadly and dangerous, it does create, and understandably so. I don't fault people for getting worked up about it, but it creates fear and superstition. And the more you try to silence fear and superstition, the more credence you just give to it. Okay, so what was the document she just brought?
The Pacmara was killed by the plague as well.
Okay. Okay, so Franklin's response to this is okay. Go down there and dissect that Pakmarad, bit by bit, because this is actually a good bad thing. That by if we can find out what attack vector the Pakmarad got it, that takes us one step closer to being able to figure out how this disease works, how we can attack it, and how we can cure it. He wasn't of the egg. That's what killed the Pakmara. So all the all the Markeb
Cab, yeah.
have gone down to uh, an isolated area, but they also
Yes.
kind of chose to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, Thomas, I'm not sure where Jakar is. I think he may be I think he may be lamenting all the confessions he's hearing right now. I mean, the work of a priest is never done.
Thomas, I think this is a very strong episode for Franklin. Oh,
Hey, Ervik, how you doing?
welcome,
Yeah,
Ervik.
it seems like the little girl just came down with the sickness.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know why logically you have to have scenes like this in an episode where the doctor is trying to cure the patient, where they say, okay, well, try this combination. Well, use this chemical, and the computer goes negative results, negative results. There's a DS9 episode where Bashir was doing this for the founders uh, disease. Uh, and another one I think where Bashir is trying to find a cure for the Ketracel White. So it's a very very common trope.
Oh,
But at the same time, knowing what we know about AI now, like this is 100% something that you would set AI to and just be like, hey, here's the model, change a little bit, change a little bit. And then it would just do its own thing. And it seems like Dr. Lazarus just died, much to Franklin's
yeah.
uh, anger. Lots of composure there. But if he
Can't
lives
blame
up to
them.
his name, maybe he'll be able to come back. And sure enough, right then, they find a match. There's a match between the Pakmara green cells and the Markeb yellow cells. And Franklin's explaining how the nervous system works, and I'm sure Sheridan is just enthralled on the edge of his seat right now. And they're explaining that the way the disease works is that it kills the chemicals in the synaptic gap, and so the brain sends a signal to do something, but there's no more chemicals to relay that information, and so it doesn't go anywhere, and the body shuts down. And in the Markev, the chemical is produced by the yellow cells, and the Bakmara is produced by the green cells, and we need to find out how to stop it now, or else it could potentially mutate into something that could kill us all. Because apparently, they all races share this kind of
Well,
nervous system structure.
he said the Pacmara and the Marcab, their brains produce or have special cells to produce that chemical. Humans don't have it. Mimbari don't have it, but it could mutate into something that would affect those species.
Could. That's the fun thing about mutation. You never know what's coming next.
Hmm, very true.
Texas, is that a quote from Sheridan last week? Ah! Are they all dead now? Because they're looking very shocked, horrified. Yep.
It's a
And
very sad scene.
just Lanier and Dolores there at the end of the hallway.
Music conveys it very well too.
Oh, you can see the wetness on Lanier under his eye and on his cheek.
Yeah.
And she calls him John. I appreciate that ending. Usually you'd have the doctor saving the day. I mean, yeah, he found a cure for it. He did stop it from spreading further, but usually he'd go in there, he'd get the inoculations, and the little girl would live, and everyone would be relieved. And so Dolores is saying, hopefully we can take what we learned from them and reach out to those hurting and in need. A- And the news station is saying that the homeworld, everyone on the homeworld died.
Yep. As well as 2 million on other colonies.
And the bartender says, what do you call 2 billion dead Markeb? Planetary redecorating. Not a strong joke.
No. And then he says the Vorlons did it.
The Vorlon. He's speculating that the Vorlons or killed the
The
Markeb.
Markab. Yeah.
Well, that was a good episode. That
It was a very good
was
episode.
that was a very courageous choice at the end, just to knock everyone off, like from a writing standpoint.
And what great acting from Jakar, from
Yeah,
Andreas Casillas.
and Kefir, the way he saved the day, but just being too late.
Yeah,
Excellent.
right? Right?
Excellent.
Positive wants to know what happened to Kefir. He disappeared again. Now he's out
Yeah.
on
Well,
patrol again.
he must have been in quarantine the whole time because he would aboard the derelict ship or something like
Well,
that.
did he go aboard? They tractored it back, or they towed it back, I should say. They don't have tractor beams.
So Jeff, thoughts about the episode?
Oh, that was a very powerful episode, very emotional episode. I watched it earlier today, and I had some tears. I would admit.
It
Great
it's
acting.
hard. Oh yeah, it's hard for me to look at these sort of episodes post 2020
Oh yes,
and
I
not
mean it certainly reminds you of COVID. That's for sure.
well, and not being cynical. Like it's so hard not to be cynical now, uh,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the point of the episode, to not be cynical and not be like the barman at the end who's like, oh, it was the Vorlons. Like to
Well,
actually have compassion for those dying.
as Franklin's stated, this has happened in the past, and the same thing happens based upon the plague. People are people. They do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
They'll blame somebody else for it.
And Joel's saying, except it's not the same thing. Couldn't be more different. Well, my point is, on this side of COVID, if there's like looking at a show like this, it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, here's some excellent points they're making. Like it's hard not to go so far in the other direction now, being like, well, everything is staged, everything isn't as bad as they're saying, everything is being over the top reactionary. Like this is just a fear mongering episode. And yeah, there's some truth there. They are pulling on the heartstrings, but at the same time, the larger point of the episode, I feel like, was to not go hyper reactionary whenever the next disease comes along. If the Markeb had reacted more calmly and actually pursued good data and good science, they could have had a different outcome. Like the big thing they talk about was the fact that this disease has been quietly growing in the background without anyone talking about it for years. And if they had just addressed it when it first came up, it could have been handled. And I think that with COVID in real life, we saw the same response, but in a different direction. So we also had mass hysteria, and we also had overreacting, and we cut off dialogue about things. But in that case, we we overemphasized it, whereas the Marqueb had the response of underemphasizing it.
Oh, there was a
And,
stigma about it too.
yeah. And so I feel like the point of the episode was, hey, let's be honest about what's happening. Let's not cut off dialogue. Let's be compassionate to people who are suffering from this. And instead of responding emotionally, let us respond rationally. And yeah, Joel, I agree. The responses were deadlier than the disease, and have had much longer lasting impacts.
Yeah.
But that's still the point. Like, instead of responding emotionally and hysterically, we got to respond rationally.
Well, when something like that hits, it's easy to overreact, I think.
What other thoughts about the episode, Jeff?
Well, I enjoyed the dinner scene, the meal that Sheridan went
Yes.
in and had with Dolores and Lanier. I thought it was funny. Building a relationship there, building their characters, as well as what seems to be a growing relationship between Sheridan and Dolores. One thing that I think you might have not picked up on at one point, maybe you did, I don't know. Dr. Franklin stated that he was taking stims again.
Oh, yeah, I did miss that one. Makes sense, though.
Well, he is fighting this this plague, trying to find a cure for it. I'm sure he had to keep awake, so he was taking stims again. But this is not the first time we've heard him say he was taking stims. So I wonder if there's something to that.
I honestly, every time I hear that, I kind of put in the same category as like, oh, I'm just drinking coffee nonstop.
But I
Now,
think
I
it's a little
will
more
be,
powerful than coffee, though.
yeah, granted. So I am curious to see if at some point it does turn into an addiction thing. But I mean, we saw we saw the president's doctor doing it and talking about how the stims aren't working anymore, or they're almost not working. But he knows if he falls asleep, he's a dead man. Uh, and then we saw Franklin
And
doing it in the past, and then again today.
I listened to a podcast before we do our stream on the
Hmm.
episode, and something I did not realize, and I think somebody stated this a few weeks back. Dr. Kyle from the pilot also was taking stims.
Oh,
I had forgotten that. That was mentioned
okay.
in the podcast for this episode.
Hmm. Yeah, I hadn't paid attention to that, or hadn't made that connection.
So, well, you know, it was brand new series for you at the time. You were watching your very first episode, so you know that was a while back, and we only saw him for one episode. And Texas wants to know which podcast that is. That's Gray 13. Is it 13 or 18? Gray. Can't remember the number.
You're hanging out with me too much.
I know. Gray
Before you,
17. Thank you.
I say it's gonna
Gray
probably turn out
17.
to be like Pink 12 or Pink Elephant.
It's Gray
You hang out with me
17.
so much, it's all wrong.
Excellent podcast, by the way. What they have a group of people who have never seen the show, and they all watch it. And then they also have a few that have seen the show, and they talk about it, about the episode that they just watched, and then they eject out the airlock the people that haven't seen the whole show, and then the people that have, then they talk about the predictions and the questions that the newbies have about the series up to that
Ooh.
point. It's kind of a neat podcast, a little bit like what we're doing in a way.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's nothing new. I thought it was unique, but we're gonna keep doing it.
well, we're a little bit different than they are, but
Yeah.
it's a good podcast. And GamerGrad81 says the main dude has been watching B5 since the beginning of its airing. Well, that was me too, pretty much. I saw The Gathering when it went out on its premiere.
Well, thank you, Joel. He says this is a million times better. I appreciate that. Uh,
Huh. Very
and
nice of you to say.
on an episode like today, it is hard not to get political. Like there are occasionally you hit a sci-fi episode that is so relevant to life. Like there's so many parallels you can take with it that it's hard not to let politics come in just a tiny bit. But I always do try to be fair in my political commentary. And
Now,
not
I
just be like a
wonder.
diehard shield for one side or the other.
Oh, that's very fair of you. That's very, very good of you. I try to do that too.
Yeah, I think we do a
But
good. I'm biased, but I think we do a good job.
yeah, everybody has their biases, no doubt. But I'm willing to listen and listen to all sides, and I'm willing to change my mind if I feel it's warranted.
Yeah.
Now, they brought all the Marcab in for blood tests, or a lot of them anyway. I'm wondering if that helped to spread the disease quicker.
I mean, they were all congregated in one spot, and
But then they congregated themselves, so maybe it didn't matter.
yeah.
I don't know. Now, they said that this plague originally showed up several hundred years ago. Now, I'm wondering if it might extend all the way back to 1,000 years. What happened 1,000
Ooh,
years ago?
the last war could be
And what seems to be happening now?
bit of a
Is there a
war.
connection? Is there a connection?
I did mention this ever so briefly that I did wonder if Delin was going to come in and be like, "Oh yeah, we need to talk. Like this was bioengineered, and we've seen this sort of
Yeah,
disease before." But then it turned out she just wanted to do her humanitarian aid, which I felt like a
yeah.
nice use of her for this episode. Excuse me, I misspoke. I meant Dolores. Sorry, Omni. Uh, so I really appreciated that moment for her because throughout this season, she has been increasingly isolated from everyone.
That's a good observation.
And so her having this moment and that line, I love that line so much. When is similar, so you, what was it? Something about you have to be similar, be compassion, or to have compassion.
What does similarity have to do with being compassionate?
Yes. What does similarity have to do with being
Something like
compassionate?
that.
That is such an
Because
excellent line.
Sheridan tells her, those are not your people. And in
Thank
fact,
you, Trevor Lauren.
maybe.
He says, I didn't
Thank
know
you.
that similarity was required for compassion.
There you go. That is a great line.
And like I
Thank
said,
you.
it's hard not to get political, but sometimes you get a line like that and it's like, yes, we need that right now. We've forgotten that we can disagree with someone ideologically and still have compassion for them.
Well,
Just because,
maybe Dolores's actions or thoughts on this have changed, because if you go back to the first season,
yes,
when the family was going, the mother and the father were going to all the ambassadors, and she didn't want to help.
yeah,
Maybe since she's gone through this physical change, she's kind of a mixture now, Minbari human. Maybe she is willing to be more compassionate and give out that aid.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
In
what did Matthew
terms
think?
of, oh, I've been saying this whole time. I've been so excited about this episode. I barely let you had your own thoughts. I'm sorry. Um,
No, you're fine.
but no, I felt like this was such a good episode. I just cannot get over letting not just everyone on the station die. I was in the middle of like, okay, well, he got the cure, and then the news thing comes on, and they talk about like the entire race is dead or
Yeah,
in the process
pretty
of dying. Like
much.
there might be a few holdouts. And so he didn't even win in the end. It was complete and utter defeat. I mean, he managed to keep it from jumping species, so the Pakmara aren't about to die,
Yeah.
other than the one guy who did. Uh, but like, I'm sure he himself would describe it as complete defeat. Like he wouldn't go, well, that wasn't a victory. I completely lost. That is such a gutsy move, and I have so much respect for them for letting that be something that happened in their universe. Um, but like,
Tragedy happens.
Can you imagine if Bashir failed to save not just Odo, but then like all the founders? If Bashir failed to save all the Jem'Hadar, I mean, that is not the Star Trek way. And I love Star Trek for that. But I also recognize like that is not the way. And at the other end, you get newer sci-fi series where it's always bleak, horrible, death, destruction.
Oh
There's
yeah.
nothing but
Yeah.
despair. The fact that they had this episode specifically be such a dark episode and have it be because one, the macabre, they ignored it and it allowed the disease to balloon way past what it should have. And then also the races around them had no compassion for them. And so the two things work together to wipe out an entire species from the galaxy. Like that is amazing writing. Yeah, the macabre, bit of a macabre episode itself.
Texas says,
And
well, it's kind of like they uncover a plot to assassinate the president, but they're too late to keep it from happening. Can you imagine?
true, true, true. And then K. Roberts was saying that some macabres survive.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Some of them survive. Um, but like effectively they're gone. And they kind of do put that
Pretty
in.
much.
They mentioned at the beginning how initially there was that one island that had it and everyone died, and thankfully it stopped there because everyone was dead by the time anyone showed up, and so the disease stopped. And so you could have
that's
the
what
opposite.
happened hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. So you could have the opposite. You could have some macabre out there somewhere so isolated such that they're able to survive the extinction of their race, as it were. But effectively, they're gone. Like, it's an interesting.
Kind of reminds me of the
scientific.
Alorians when they were assimilated by the Borg. Most of them were assimilated.
Is there a line specifically you're thinking of? Yeah.
Well, we know that their civilization was assimilated essentially by the Borg. There were a few survivors.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
Guinan.
I was
like
wondering
Guinan.
if there's like one line, like, oh yeah, there's this line Guinan said, and like I'm not gonna get the line, so you might as well just spoon feed it to me.
I don't know if
But
there's
the concept,
line,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Borg taught them the true meaning of Christmas. I don't think so, Omni. But there is an interesting. They've actually done scientific research on this, showing how much of a species has to survive in order for it to repopulate an extinction event like this. Because otherwise, it's a fascinating thing that happened in real life where there was basically a flood that happened that isolated a group of animals on an island, and they basically inbred themselves into extinction.
Mm.
Where had they had the entire gene pool to work with, they would have been fine. But because the population size was too small to start off with, within a couple generations, they just died. And so you very much could have a situation where there's some survivors, but there's literally not enough survivors for your race to survive, 100, 200 years maybe.
Seems
And
pretty
yeah,
grim.
gamer grad, I messed up. Kiefer didn't save the day today. Maybe next time.
He didn't?
No, they lost. He was keeping his engines warm for Franklin to hand him the vaccine so that he could jump into hyperspace and deliver.
Ah,
But it didn't work out. He did
Omni
tow
says he,
the ship like the champ. Yep.
yeah, he did. He did. He got chewed out by Ivanova.
Yeah. Um. I I do feel like this episode in general may have been heavily, well, not heavily. I feel like it was more political than the standard Babylon 5 episode.
You
This
know, I do go on and look at the episode on Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5, which has all the notes that JMS made on the Usenets when the show was
Yeah.
going out. And he said he did not write this to be political.
Really?
Really.
Well, I am pleasantly surprised. Like especially that moment where Garibaldi had the choice to reach out and help up the macabre or not. I felt like that had so much real world parallels that I thought for sure this was another one of the Child of the Egg episodes.
It seemed like it was going that way, didn't it?
But I guess that's the thing. If you are drawing on real life responses to things like the plague, Spanish flu, um, HIV, uh, tuberculosis, diphtheria, whatever, there are definitely going to be very real world examples that you can draw from. And it can make it seem like you're being political when you're actually being an astute student of history at that point.
Josh, I
And
know what you're going for there. Yes. Professor, what is in Sector 45 of space other than the Marqueb homeworld? I think
I don't
you're
know.
referring to Sector 801, which is near Sector 45. And we're not there yet.
I say these are unknown numbers to me, and fortunately, I will get them wrong and forget them. I mean, very quickly. So you're not spoiling anything yet.
Well, I'm
Yet.
not going to reveal what's in Sector 801.
I know what's in Sector 001.
Wrong franchise.
If you ever like talking about all this medical stuff, if you ever want to know like just a rock star of science, check out Dr. Jon Snow. So this isn't the Game of Thrones guy. There's a real guy named Jon Snow who is considered to be the father of modern epidemiology, which is the study of how disease spreads. And he was in Britain in the early 1800s. I forget the exact disease he was researching, but it had massive mortality rates. It was one of the ones where you were losing fluids from both ends.
That's never good.
Yeah, and the refuse would leak into the drinking water supply. And so at the
That's
time,
really not good.
yeah, and so of course, and that's how it spread. And so at the time, they
Right.
would actually quarantine whales, and they'd say that, well, this whale has a miasma on it. Like they're literally at the point where they thought their diseases spread through miasma. And he said, guys, this cannot be right. Dysentery, yes, positive candor. That's what it was.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
he was
Positive.
literally like going, like taking his life in his hand, going house to house, talking to these people, seeing their movement patterns, and building up a chart of how the disease spread outward. And he was able to prove conclusively that it came from this one spot, and it wasn't a miasma, it was germs. But total rock star, amazing guy. Doctor 1800s.
Very cool. Cool. I have to look it up.
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel called Extra Credits. I want to say Extra Credits History or something. They
Okay.
do a very good summary in a engaging way, like little cartoon character stuff.
It says extra credit
I want to say it's
history.
Extra Credit History. Um,
Okay. I think I found it. Extra history, maybe?
it might be. It's been a
It
long
does
time since I.
looks cartoonish.
Yes, Extra History, the Broad Street Pump Part One. Um, it's a very interesting way of doing it. In fact, I'm probably gonna watch it again. Now that I've
John
pulled it
says
up.
that that guy would be useful on the Oregon Trail.
He would have been. Well, Jeff, final thoughts about tonight's episode.
Strong episode. A lot of good acting. Very heartbreaking episode. Um, wasn't expecting this from Babylon 5. And looking forward to next week. Got another good one coming up next week.
Yeah, and so I'll agree with what you just said, and just the bait and switch they did there at the end, where they go in
Oh
there and
yeah.
they have all the vials and they're ready to do a stopgap measure, and you open it up and everyone was dead. Just amazingly well done twist. It's interesting
Uh,
because it's a twist that you should have seen coming, but it's a twist you just wouldn't have expected.
right. And Gamer is correct. This is not the last time that this show will break our hearts.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, and I didn't say this. The Dolores and Sheridan growing romantic kind of connections there. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think it was a little fast, but
It is one of those things where I know JMS said he always intended to switch out captains, but when you look at
uh,
how they're developing things with Sinclair,
Sinclair.
and then I kind
Actually,
of feel like,
no.
yeah,
Sinclair was supposed to run through the entire series originally.
I thought you told me that JMS claims that he'd always intended to switch out.
He had contingency plans for every single character in case something happened or the actor couldn't continue. They could switch a character out, bring somebody else in, and that's what
Okay.
happened with Sinclair. Michael O'Hare had to leave because of his health, so they had to bring in a different character.
Okay.
But the original plan was O'Hare was going to play Sinclair all 5 seasons.
Okay. So I was gonna
And then
say,
some, because, and we haven't talked about this, the original plan was to have the 5 seasons and then have a spin-off series, and Sinclair was going to be in that as well.
oh,
Yeah. It didn't work out that way, but
Thomas says, was it as fast as Troy and Worf or Seven and Chakotay?
not that fast.
I feel like Troy and Worf were the more out of nowhere coupling.
Oh, I disagree. I think Seven and Chakotay were
Yeah,
out of nowhere.
I felt like they had a handful of little hints before they're like, hey, you know what? Let's just springboard off of that and make them a couple, or
Well, with
technically make
Troy,
Seven interested in him.
Troy and Worf, it goes all the way back at least to Parallels,
Hmm.
where
Okay.
Worf was married in another alternate universe to Troy, and they also had the connection with Alexander.
Yeah, I guess I didn't count
So,
parallel since it was another dimension. But I guess that was kind of the point. These were more what if parallels than true.
Right. I think they had a little scene there at the end of Parallels. John says
Okay, so
before Endgame, there was not even a slight indication that Chakotay had interest in Seven.
yeah, I admit I do stretch it a bit for Chakotay, but they introduced Seven's interest in him before then.
Perhaps.
Um.
But
Anyway,
the two just didn't have chemistry. I don't think they did.
yeah,
I think we're seeing a bit of
I'll grant you
chemistry already.
that.
I think we're already seeing chemistry between Dolores and Sheridan.
Oh yeah. My only like my only thought about the speed of the relationship is it does seem like they're somewhat springboarding off of what happened between Sinclair and Dolores and applying
Maybe a
it to
little bit.
Sheridan.
Yeah, I think so.
Because if you look at it and you're like, okay, if I had the same character the whole time and these are the story beats that are going to be happening, then the pace works. So I kind of feel like they lost a little bit with having to backtrack some and be like, oops, now we have a new captain. But they at least did lay that groundwork where he took her out to dinner. And
yeah, I was just going to mention the dinner.
And Josh is saying Oda, wow. Odo and Kira is the closest to Sheridan and Dolores. I feel like Odo and Kira had a long build up.
Oh yeah, it was almost 6 seasons worth before they kissed.
Yeah. And that was a funny scene, them yelling at each other in the promenade.
Yes.
And
yes.
And he's like, well,
that was
maybe I should just kiss you now and get it over with. Well, maybe you should.
And then they kiss.
Yeah, DS9 ripped off the romance from B5. Exactly, Thomas.
I know, Thomas. It just keeps happening.
Okay, so for next week, let me make my prediction here. We've turned into a romance stream. What happened here? This would be a great topic. Anyone who wants to do this, a Valentine's Day stream, best to worst relationships across Trek or sci-fi in general.
Ooh. Interesting.
And maybe
interesting idea.
Yeah, and John, maybe that'd be a good Jep Nerdy category, like a relationships one for your Valentine's Day stream. Yeah.
Well, Valentine's Day is a Friday this year. That's kind of close to our regular Saturday for Jep Nerdy.
It's true. Isn't someone doing a Friday stream right now?
Yes, Patrick is doing Wheel of Trek.
Yeah.
Wheel of Trek. No, it's not Wheel of Jeff. There's rumors that it's Wheel of Jeff. It's Wheel of Trek.
So if you're ever looking for a fun sci-fi stream on Friday nights, go check out Wheel of Trek.
If you like Wheel of Fortune, you like Star Trek, go find Wheel of Trek.
And Saturday nights, you got Jep Nerdy.
Let me see if I can get the channel.
Oh yes, please, please do. We'll drop it in as a link here real quick.
There we go.
Just hold tight.
So
yeah, that's
I just
Patrick's
put a
channel.
link. Patrick, his channel, and he has he was doing Trek Feud. That wasn't working out so well, but Wheel of Trek is a lot of fun.
Very good. And then of course, John, if you want to drop a link to your channel for anyone who wants to have a fun Saturday night where it's Jep Nerdy, it is Jeopardy, but nerdy.
And he does great videos also. He had a premiere today.
That's true. Every Monday he drops a premiere of something Star Trek related.
Yeah. Today, what was it today? It was, Optimism, Captain.
No, I have not been on YouTube at all today. In fact, I barely turned on my computer in time to get the stream set up this evening. Wait, I take that back. I turned on my computer first thing this morning so I could have the stream set up on time for once.
Yes, I noticed.
So I try, guys, and today I actually succeeded. So hopefully, yeah, I'm saying before now, Thomas. I wasn't in YouTube at all today before this stream, except long enough to set it up. So I haven't seen what John's Trek video today was. Is my point.
It was about optimism.
Oh, Gamer Grad, I just barely started the Wheel of Time books, so I look forward to seeing where they go. But I've heard incredible things about them.
John also puts out a video on Thursdays as well, so check that out.
Oh, that's true. And there's John's link too, just a minute ago. So okay, let me make a quick prediction, and then I need to hit the hay here, guys. Next week we're gonna be we are 4 episodes from the end of season 2. That is incredible. So next week is going to be called Divided Loyalties. This is season 2, episode 19. That is a great title. That actually gives me almost too much to work with, because we've had a lot of divided loyalties this season.
Wait till you see the TV guide listing for next week.
So I'm going to make my prediction, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the other divided loyalties I'm seeing. I think we're going to pick up with the Psi-Corps plot line. So this is going to be an episode focusing on Talia. Is that her name? Talia?
Talia Winters.
Talia Winters. I think it's going to be focusing on her and this continuing distrust she's had of the Psi-Corps, which means if we are very lucky, I hope to see Bester next week, as he is. Why would he be there though? It makes sense for Talia to have divided loyalties in which she's questioning: is she going to continue following the path of the Psi-Corps, or is she going to kind of become more and more against them? Because she's had her first steps. We saw her take off the pendant as she talked to Ivanova in the last episode with Bester. In the last episode with Bester. And so I think it makes sense to see her continuing that plot line, which I get it. That's kind of every plot line we've had with her. I get that. So I feel a little bit redundant being like, well, this is going to be her plot line. We had the one with her boyfriend / professor where she had divided loyalties. Then we had the follow-up episode with her and the rogue psychics, divided loyalties. But she's in a position where that plot line, it just works for her. And I think it makes sense to see one more time her loyalty being divided between helping someone and towing the line with the Psi-Corps. Psi-Corps' mother, Psi-Corps' father.
Ooh, I'm impressed. You picked up on that.
Oh, yes.
Very, very good. Alfred Buster. Yes, on me.
Okay, so that is my prediction. Other divided loyalties I'm seeing in this season right now. We have, of course, Sheridan's divided loyalties, where he was sent here to be kind of a spy mole position where he couldn't trust the people that he was growing close to. He's not sure about the former vice president, what's going on there. And he's trying to uncover this plot that happened. So he has divided loyalties between the Earth government and his military kind of cohorts.
And, we haven't really seen much of that since their little group formed.
we saw the one episode, There All the Honor Lies, I believe is what it was. And that's the one where he had the defense attorney. And I want to say it was also the one. Uh, oh, was that even that? I want to say that was the episode where we last saw him make contact with the lady who is his handler. Or was that even before then? Was that in the Psychor episode? With the doctor? No. That was the one with the doctor.
That was the one with the doctor, yeah.
What was that? Hunter Prey?
Hunter Prey.
That was episode 13. So it's been a while since we've checked in on that.
Yeah.
It'd be a bit of a stretch, but Garibaldi might have some divided loyalties between the Rangers now and Sinclair and his current commander. A bit of a stretch, but I mean, we do see that he is keeping some secrets. Londo certainly getting some divided loyalties after Knives.
Very true. Very true.
So I mean, there's
growing friction between.
Yeah.
There's growing friction between Londo and Lord Rifa, or is that Reefer?
Reefer. It depends, man. So yeah, I could see all those being potential plot lines, and that's what I mean by the name divided loyalties. That gives me a lot to work with. But I'm locked in. Final answer. I think that it is Talia, and her loyalties are being divided against her friends here on Babylon 5 and the Psychor, and she's going to be put into a tough situation. And then Kiefer's going to come and save the day. Final answer.
Okay.
No, Thomas, that was not my Jamaican accent. That was me thinking about it and then going, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, I think you'll like the TV Guide listing this week.
So everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week as we have we've gone over the episode. We've talked emulation. We've talked a lot of romance, very surprising. And I think we even got some Babylon 5 talk in there too. So thanks for hanging out. A little bit. Look forward to seeing you next week. Our scampering.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.